When a character you main gets buffed, it's usually a happy occasion, especially if they're on the weaker side. However, for me this happiness is now replaced with the complete opposite. Doctor was the first killer I fell in love with when I started Dead by Daylight. From his power and his aesthetic, everything was a smash hit for me. In the early days of DBD, Doctor was a very unique killer, with his multiple stances and many different effects to apply and mess with survivors, giving him a great build diversity. And while he still has this now, I feel like it has all been watered down. It all started in patch 3.5.0 in 2020, where Doctor got a decent overhaul to his power, getting rid of his old stance switching among other changes. This became relatively similar to what he is like today. Now don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this change at the time. It made Doctor more smooth to play and overall made him stronger. However, I feel as though this was the catalyst that paved the future for the Doctor. Now with the patches after that update, Doctor got some nice changes, making some of his add-ons base kit and generally just making him more streamlined to play. However, there were two add-ons that almost everyone ran, one of them being Moldy Electro or one of the other range add-ons, and of course any of the discipline add-ons to make the shock therapy delay shorter. For a good while people asked for these to be base kit, and while I agreed with the range, the delay I felt was unnecessary. Sure, it made it easier to shock people when the connection wasn't perfect, but apart from that I felt like it ruined the skill of timing your shocks. Eventually though, these much requested changes got through, yet the add-ons didn't get reworked at all, so you could still easily stack discipline and range to give Doctor insane range and no delay at all. And in one of the most recent patches, they buffed the shock therapy delay even further from that previous patch. I found that discipline in fact to be opposite of what the add-on name suggests and incentivizes spamming your shock therapy when previously with base kick Doctor this was punished and you had to make sure that you were timing your shock therapy just right. The normalization of these add-ons and making them base kit made it extremely boring as a survivor to go against Doctor, but for me as a Doctor player also made it boring to play, as I felt the skill expression of him had faded away. It felt like behavior was pushing to make him more of a generic anti-loop killer with good tracking rather than a killer with unique ways to confuse and mess with survivors. This makes Doctor quite redundant, as why would I want to play with Doctor with his kind of alright anti-loop when I could play someone like Nemesis who destroys pallets and kills survivors really quickly at loops. Sure, old Doctor was clunky in places, but what was different was that his main focus was on his madness and managing the levels of it. Sure, he could still stop people using pallets, but that wasn't the main part of his power. Perhaps it's because Dead by Daylight has evolved from a less hide and seek game to a more chase oriented game, which makes Doctor's tracking not as useful as it once was, especially when there's now 100 more perks that do tracking better and or on the same level as Doctor's power. Even then, I found it the wrong move from behavior to focus on Doctor's anti-loop when it's arguably one of the worst anti-loops in the game. Sure, it's effective and you'll eventually get the hit, but it takes a very long time to get that hit, unlike someone like Nemesis where you can get it very easily. With Doctor's tracking not being as useful as it once was and his anti-loop kind of being okay at best, why not focus on Doctor's more unique parts of his kit, like his madness and his different effects? Sure, he might be weaker, but he's not even that strong currently anyway, so I'd rather play a more unique killer that's slightly worse than a kind of generic killer who's a little better. Killer powers over the year have got more and more crazy with different effects and different abilities that are used in them, but I feel like Doctor deserves to get some of that love by using his madness in more creative ways than what is currently being used for. Now maybe I'm being a bit overdramatic. It's not like Doctor doesn't have any interesting ways to play him. He still has a stealth build and massive terror radius build, and as a lot of his add-ons still create interesting effects like fake pallets and whatnot, but these just feel like gimmicks and not the main focus of his playstyle anymore. Although Doctor hasn't had many drastic changes, he feels like a completely different killer than what I fell in love with. Maybe this is just because Dead by Daylight has evolved as a game and his power is just not as viable as it once was back in the day, but I think there's still room for change to make his madness more interesting, to make him as a killer more interesting. But maybe nothing's changed. Maybe it's just me, And maybe I'm the odd one out and doesn't like the direction that they went with him. Perhaps it's just nostalgia plaguing my mind. Who knows? But I know one thing. I don't enjoy playing him as much as I once did. And there you go. There's another silly commentary thingy video that I've done. I don't know. I felt like doing another Dead by Daylight one. I have more visual novel ones in mind, but you know, I felt this was a personal one. I felt like I needed to get off my chest because I really like the Doctor, but you know, and I like his vibe. It's kind of similar to how I was with Trickster. I'm not going to lie, but you know, hey ho. I'll probably do another commentary video soon. I'll probably do it on You, Me, and Her because I was planning on doing it, but then Dead by Daylight. So yeah. But until then, there might be another drum cover. Who knows? But I guess you'll have to wait and see. Wow. So anyway, toodle pips, and see you on the next one. Wow.
Oh, what?